We're going to go ahead and get rolling, and hopefully they can catch whatever they miss online since it is being live streamed. So let me know when, are we ready to go live stream? All righty, here we go. So welcome to our town hall. I like to do these about once a year or whenever we need to, just to bring you all up to date on things going on around the church. We're going to talk about a couple of things today. You heard Bo mention a few of the topics that we'll be talking about. And then we'll have a time just for question and answer for anything that you all have heard about that you don't know what's going on or you need more details. So if you will go to the first slide, please. So the United Methodist Church has embraced a new vision statement, which I absolutely love because it's very active and it very much describes a lot of what Epworth does. And that vision statement is to love boldly, serve joyfully, and lead courageously. And I think that describes so much of what Epworth already does. And so I really resonate with it, and especially the verbs and the adverbs and the way it's explaining. So you'll hear more about that over the next couple of years, but just wanted you to know that this is the new vision for the United Methodist Church. Our mission is still to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. So that is the United Methodist Church's mission statement, but our vision, which is when we are living fully the way we believe God is calling us to live, we're going to love boldly, we're going to serve joyfully, and we're going to lead courageously. So wanted to introduce you to that. If you'll go to the next slide. This is our big announcement. We are creating a new chapel. And so, you know, why? Why do we need a new chapel? And we'll get into the details in a minute. But oftentimes when we have services like Ash Wednesday or Holy Thursday or, you know, some other services, they tend to be small. And so having a smaller space where we can feel like we're more together instead of a bunch of people gathered all throughout the sanctuary. And this is especially important for me when I do funerals that are small. You know, when people live a very long time, many of their friends have already passed away. And so it's just family, which, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but when you have 30 people in a sanctuary that holds 400 plus, you know, they feel like, well, no one's here. Whereas if we had a chapel where it could feel smaller and more intimate, they could feel like that, you know, their family has gathered for this sacred time. Smaller weddings, I've only done 2 weddings here since I've been here, which is pretty amazing, but one of them was, again, just family. And so they were spread out all over the sanctuary, and it looked like no one was here. The other thing that we have talked about is a potential for an early morning worship service. I know we used to have a 7:45, and COVID kind of, you know, shifted everything. And then we found when we went back to a 9 and 11, that the 11 o'clock, there were more people in the choir than there were in the sanctuary. And so it just didn't quite work. And so we tried a blended service, and I think for the most part, people love that blended service. We get to know each other, we get a variety of music, and it's a beautiful thing. And we also have people who liked the early service so that they could get in, have their worship, and they could, you know, leave, especially during the summer when the traffic's crazy and everything else. So we've had some conversation about doing an 8 o'clock worship service, and it would be very truncated, I guess, is the better word. It would be more simple. It would be less. It would have less music. It wouldn't have the praise team or the choir. We would probably have a soloist. Doug would play the piano. And so it would probably be more traditional and more kind of a simpler format. So we're hoping that the chapel might be a place that we could do something like that. Next slide, please. So this is the how. How are we going to get a chapel? And Doug has been in on the planning, so is Murray. So the planning team is Bo, myself, Doug, and Murray. And so what we've thought about is repurposing the choir room into a multi-purpose room. So to put a divider about a little bit more than halfway back, and right now we're talking about a flexible divider so that it's not a solid wall. We're going to kind of see how that works. But the biggest thing is we're going to reorient. So right now when you walk into the choir room, everyone's facing you. We are going to shift that from, so right now everyone's facing this way when you walk into the choir room. We're going to have everyone turn and face this way. And there's a beautiful window there that we're actually working with some stained glass artists who are going to put stained glass just over the window so we don't have to knock the whole window out, but that we can fill that whole frame with a piece of stained glass. And so we're looking forward to that because I think, again, that'll create a sense of like a sacred space. And then we're going to replace the pews. And here's the thing, the pews that are in the choir room came over from Baltimore Avenue. There's also pews, any of the pews that you see out here in the foyer, those are also ones from Baltimore Avenue. But here's the problem, the pews are 15 feet long. We cannot reorient them and get a place for a chapel that's gonna be, where you're gonna be able to navigate it. It would be way too cluttered, people would be squeezing, and it's just not gonna work. So we're gonna get rid of the pews. And so we want to give people, a chance. If you would like a pew, they're 15 feet long, so I'm not sure. But if you're a woodworker and you want to create something out of it, that's fine. But we're going to give people until April 15th to let us know if you want a pew or, oh gosh, how many are there, Murray? Do you know? About 6? Yeah, 6 or 7. So if you would like a pew, you just need to let us know, and we will make sure we hold on to that for you. Once the pews are gone, we're going to get chairs like the ones that are up here. They're going to be a different color, but they're very comfortable, and you can move them around so that if you need more space or less space. There will be a projector, which we already have, and a screen off to the side. And so, again, that makes it easier for people to come in and to sing. We are going to do some additional lighting. So right now the lighting is fluorescent, which works great for the choir. We're not going to get rid of that, but we're going to add some additional lighting that's going to be a little bit more, again, creating that sacred, holy space. So, some mood lighting, so to speak, which will require some additional electrical work in that room. And then we are going to, like I said, subdivide the room. So if you go in now, the pews are there, and then there's a table, and then the bell tables are back in the very back of the room. The dividing wall will be about where the pews end right now. The bell tables will stay where they are. The choir will still rehearse in that room. So your biggest change is the choir won't be facing this way, you'll be facing this way. But Doug will, still have he actually needs to get the keyboard. There's a keyboard in there that he needs to get the pedal fixed. But there will be a piano in there, and, so again, the impact on the music room is going to be fairly minimal. It's the orientation, the choir remains in front, the bell table's in the back. So let's talk about cost. The estimated cost is about $15,000. First, I'll jump to the bottom. $7,500 was a gift from Roger Truitt in memory of his sister Sue. And then the other $7,500 as needed will come from the capital expenditures account. So the biggest costs are going to be the chairs, the lighting, the wiring, the room divider, and whatever we need to do with the stained glass once we get it, figure out what that's going to be. Next slide, please. So again, what we're hoping is that we create this sacred space for smaller gatherings. We're guessing there will be about 60 chairs, so that can give you an idea of, how small. If you look at this area here, this is about from that end to where this line over here starts. That's about the width of the chapel. So again, Are there any questions about how, about why, about what's going to happen, creating this chapel? Yes.
I would like to know, we would enter through the door on the side, get into the chapel, the door that now comes into the choir on the side.
Mostly we're thinking people would enter through the foyer. Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, when I think prayer chapel, sometimes during the week you just have a need to.
And Vicki, could you please repeat?
Yes, so the question was, where are people going to enter the chapel from? Our vision was that they would still enter from the foyer and go into the choir room that way, because otherwise they come in and they're at the bell tables. So, this kind of encourages them to usher into that space. And so Loretta was saying sometimes people want to come in and pray. I think that's fine, but we won't, because of security reasons, we won't leave that back door unlocked. So.
But it would be available during the week if people stopped in?
Sure. I mean, if you stopped in and came, told the people in the office where you were, it would be available. The other thing, though, is that we still have AA groups that meet in there, and so we just have to be careful with scheduling. And so, again, trying to create a multi-purpose space, but that also feels like a very reverent chapel and space. Yes? Yeah, that's the hard part. We're asking if people want a pew to let us know by April 15th. We're hoping to get something set up in time to do a summer early morning worship service, so that we would do a trial from June to beginning of September. But that may be a little ambitious. We'll have to see how all of that, because we still have to order the chairs and get rid of the pews. But that's our hope. If not, it'll be sometime in the fall. Yes, Rob. So Rob's question is, how many chairs? We're thinking about 60 will fit in there. Yes, Dick. I think there are 7 pews in the choir room. Yeah, Gwen's going to go count for me. Thank you, Gwen. There you go. I know, and we had a woodworker in one of my former churches that would cut them down into kneeling stations, which was beautiful. But again, that's kind of beyond the scope of what we feel like we have the energy to do. But if you know someone who wants to do that, or someone who wants the pews, absolutely let us know. Because there's still, there's nothing wrong. 5. Oh, so there are 5. I thought there were more. 5 pews, 5 15-foot-long pews. Yes, Martha. Thank you. Right. That is awesome. So Martha's just giving testimony to her prior church that did something similar to this. And she said the space was used not just for funerals and worship services, but for hosting like art shows and things like that. So, it's a beautiful space, and I think it'll be, at one point we talked about replacing the flooring with luxury vinyl plank, and that may be something we do down the road, but, trying to see how this space takes shape and make sure that it's being utilized the way that we're hoping it will be before we do like major changes. Yep, here, Martha, let me give you the microphone. Bo, this is the kids' time microphone.
We would like one of the pews.
Okay. So Martha's saying she wants one of the pews, and definitely. Can you remember that for me, Murray? Yes, Mary. Okay.
I just really want to say that I think it's a great idea. I'm really impressed by it. And I'm even more impressed that you don't have to do a fundraiser for it.
I know.
You know?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I do think, I know at one point when they first moved into this building, they had envisioned a chapel, Scott's Chapel, which is now used by the Boys and Girls Club. So, you know, this is kind of getting back to an original vision for the building, but it's just rethinking how we can best use the space. So again, I really think it's not going to impact the choir. You know, you have to shift your position, but, and I think it'll be a beautiful way to have it continue to be a multi-purpose room. Yes, Marv? Say that again, I'm sorry. Online, we had not talked about that, Bo, had we? I don't think we had talked about doing anything. Yeah, that may be phase 2 of the chapel. Because we had not talked about doing, you know, we would need to set up a camera and things like that in there, so. Yes, Rick? I'm sorry.
When do you expect the 8 a.m. service?
We're hoping by summer, but we're not 100% sure. Again, some of it's going to depend on how soon the chairs can be delivered and then how quickly we can kind of shift everything. And then, you know, that's a trial. So if people really appreciate that, we could do it year-round, or we could just do it in the summer, and that'll be, you know, depending on feedback from you all, what you need and what you want. So, but the 8 a.m. service would not interfere at all with Doug having to rehearse with the praise team and the choir at 9 o'clock. So we're envisioning that it would be more like a 45-minute service, because there won't be like a kids' time, and there, you know, so some of the things, there won't be anthems and things like that. So we're thinking it would be, you know, it would still be based on the series that we're doing here, but it would just be a little bit more condensed. Is that something that you would like? Okay, no, that's good. Just trying to figure out what interest there is out there. So we'll try to make sure that even if the chapel's not finished, we might be able to start the services this summer. Yeah. Exactly, there you go. Well, we will do our best, I'll put it that way, so awesome. Yes? I'm really hoping that the 8 o'clock service will be a bring your own coffee thing, so that we won't be necessarily offering coffee. If they want to stick around afterwards, that's when you all are usually getting things ready, and I think that that would be fine. But no, I'm not thinking we would do coffee before that service. What's that? Oh, no. No. Are there other questions about this? I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll just be, and again, we really won't lose anything if it doesn't work, but I think it's going to create a beautiful space that will help us continue to minister to people in a lot of different varieties. This is a beautiful space. I love this space, and yet, again, if you have 30 people in here, it looks like no one's here. And so, you know, and there are times when you want it to be a little bit more intimate. As much as we try to make it intimate, this is not an intimate space. So we're hoping for that. Just a couple of quick church updates. You all know that we have been receiving a lot of wonderful thanks and gratitude from our community for our food ministry as part of inviting. It's wonderful to see how people acknowledge that Epworth is a place that feeds not only a heart and mind, but also the body. And so we've received a lot of great things with that. Wanted to give you another piece. If you were outside today, there was a kairos on the outside. Kairos is a ministry that is a connection to Emmaus, for those who've been on the walk to Emmaus, but it takes place, some of those take place in the prison itself, some of them take place on the outside. So the one that Jamie Forshee is involved in is one on the outside, so it's for spouses of people who are incarcerated, who have special concerns and who especially need Jesus. And here's why I wanted to bring that up as part of our inviting. The team that Jamie's involved in, many of their churches would not let them run an announcement or have flyers about those people who are incarcerated. And again, it just reminds me that Epworth loves everyone and recognizes that, we all make mistakes, and some of those sins land us in prison, but some of those sins don't, but that doesn't make us any better or any worse than anyone else. So just wanted to celebrate Epworth again for that part of our inviting. The Belonging Ministries had a wonderful Easter egg hunt yesterday, and there will be pictures next week, but we couldn't get them in time this week. But we wanted to thank all the volunteers and everyone. There were around 50 kids, which again, that's just such a beautiful gift. It reminds us that there are kids in our area. It's just trying to reach out to them and figure out how to minister to them and to their families. So wanted to thank Gwen and all of them for that piece of our Belonging ministry. Our Connecting ministry continues to, work on worship and things like that. So hopefully you all continue to experience God's presence and connecting with God and each other. And then the Caring ministry, wanted to give a shout out for that as well. You all know that we shifted from Stephen ministry to a program called Congregational Care Ministry. And so we have congregational care ministers. I did a funeral here a couple of weeks ago, and the family told me that they were so blessed by the congregational care ministers. And, that's just so nice to hear, is that they felt that Epworth was reaching out to them and surrounding them during their challenging times. So thank you to all of you who are congregational care ministers, and thank you all who support that ministry. That's a vital ministry as well. If you'll go to the next slide, the next thing we're going to do is a financial update, and I wanted to invite David to come and to give us some an overview of where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you for all the ways you support Epworth. Your generosity is what keeps this building operating, gives us our staff, our pastors, and is able to do everything that Epworth does for the community. So thank you very much for all the financial ways, as well as all the other ways that you serve Epworth and you serve God through Epworth. I won't go line by line here. This information is on the website and on the weekly announcements. I'll just hit a couple of things that I wanted to mention. We ended up the year on a strong financial note. The way giving tends to occur is cyclical. Typically, it's strong at holiday time, the last couple of months of the year, and much weaker in the early part of the year, and that's pretty much been our experience this year. Our January actually was stronger than usual, but some of that was because of February income that was recognized in January. February was very weak. March has been somewhat better, but we're still lagging behind. What actually is helping us income-wise, when you look at our year-to-date performance, we're a good bit ahead for the fiscal year-to-date. It's the last couple month-to-month that have been weaker. So thank you again for everything you do. If you're able to continue and do more, that's wonderful. Everyone's situation is different. Not everybody is able to increase their giving at a particular time, and we recognize that. So thanks again for what you do, and if you're able to step up, if you're in that position, this would be a great time to consider doing that. One of the reasons that, and I don't know this
Yeah, go, next slide, please.
Okay.
There should be the notes from the, thank you.
Okay. One of the reasons our expenses are over budget to the extent they are, as you'll see in the February notes, is that that number includes our capital expenditure projects that are not handled through the operating budget, but in the summary they're reflected as a capital expense. And most of our capital expenses are part of that non-operating budget. This was enabled by the large $500,000 gift that we got toward the end of 2024. So that's where most of our capital expenditure projects are handled. I guess the other thing I would note is that, let's see. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be talking about capital expenditures
We are, that's the next thing.
anymore or not. Oh, okay.
That's our next topic.
Okay, fine. So we have a stewardship campaign that'll be coming up. You'll be hearing about it over the next month or two. So we would appreciate your considering what you might be able to do in terms of your commitment for the coming fiscal year, which starts in July. Just back to the expenses, I just thought of the thing I'd forgotten to mention. Some of the outstanding expenses we've had in the last month or so have had to do with the storms we've had. The cost of snow removal and tree removal, because of what has happened here, is probably about $10,000. Does that sound right, Brian? Mm-hmm. So that's something we budget for, but we didn't budget for 2 feet of snow and 7 trees falling down and other limbs and cleanup that was required. So we try to allow for those unforeseen things that come up, but that kind of weather was not something we bargained for. I'll mention that we also had an audit completed in January for the first time in about 7 years, and it had a positive outcome. There were some good suggestions. There were really no dings to speak of. Some of the things that were noted procedurally have been addressed in the last couple of years. The calendar year 2023 was the basis for the audit. So since then, there have been some changes, and there'll be more changes coming when our accounting system, QuickBooks, switches from desktop to online. So 1 or 2 of the suggestions will be met when we make that change. So we were very, very pleased with the result of the audit, and the fact that it cost a little less than we budgeted, so that made us happy. And we've decided that it makes sense and will be more prudent in the long run to do an audit more frequently. So we're actually planning to do one annually, likely using the same auditor, the same accounting firm. So that'll be a budgeted expense. It'll be a smaller audit, a faster audit, but to track how we're doing in terms of making those adjustments that have been suggested by the auditor. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to hear them. Oh, we're going to be talking about the migration, I guess, separately, or
Yes.
should I? Okay.
Unless if you want to say something about
Okay.
it. Yeah.
As has been announced, the migration of our software from Servant Keeper to One Church will be happening in about a month. April 19th is the day that is targeted for the congregation to be able to set up their accounts, set up your accounts, and be able to pay online through the website or through One Church. There'll be instructions provided before then. On that Sunday, the 19th, we'll have staff and volunteers in the office to meet with people individually if you want a little more personalized help getting your account set up. And we may be able to have folks available to help with that on future Sundays as well. So So far, the migration went really well. Virtually everything that needed to be moved over was moved over. Getting ready for the migration was a process, and I send a shout out to the folks in the office who were involved in cleaning up our membership database so that we would have a solid solid mass of information about who is Epworth, who are our members, who are our regular attendees. And this involved winnowing down the membership database from about 10,000 to a little over 400. So that took some effort. So we hope that people will find One Church user friendlier than Servant Keeper, and some of the problems that we have with Servant Keeper, I know made it difficult for folks to use. So we don't anticipate that kind of thing will happen with our new software. So, any questions about One Church? Okay, thanks.
Awesome. And for those who have asked, once everything is transferred and set up in One Church, we will be able to put the pictures that were taken of you into the database, and then at some point we will be able to, not too distant future, we will be able to produce a directory for people so that we can see who is a part of our wonderful community. So if you'll go to the next slide, we want to talk a little bit about CapEx, which is capital expenditures. Again, if you remember last year, we received a $500,000 donation. Someone sold their house and gave us their proceeds. And we already had $17,000 in a capital expenditure fund. And so the Finance and Governing Board agreed that gift would not be used for any operational expenses, because we need to be able to handle our operational expenses by our giving, but that this gift would be for capital expenditures, especially things that, now that our building is getting older, there are things that are starting to break and we need to replace them. We also decided that we would tithe that gift and to the legacy fund. If you all know, we have a legacy fund where people can leave money either through their estate or they can make contributions, and then that becomes an endowment. And so every year, Epworth gets a percentage of what the legacy fund has made that comes back to our budget. I believe this year it was about 5%. And what did we get this year, about 7,000? Okay, 12 or 13,000 this year that we got back from our legacy fund. And that then can be used for our operational expenses. So that's a wonderful gift. So we decided to tithe 50,000 of that to the legacy fund. So then this is all from Linda Kaufman, who was our former governing board chair and who started the capital expenditure team and is still in charge of it. She did a great job of then taking that money and investing it in short-term CDs and things like that. So we were getting about a 4 to 5% return, which was really good, without tying up the money long-term. Next slide, please. Thank you. So far, we've spent $263,000 of that $517,000. Some of it you experience here in worship. So we got new handheld microphones, which are fabulous. Yes, the praise team is thankful for that. New video equipment for the sound booth that makes it easier to switch between like presentation and camera. Other sound booth enhancements, a new soundboard, the new hearing assistant devices, which I know for those who use them, they're very grateful for the new ones. They're much easier to use and much clearer to hear. And then this curtain behind you opens up to a shell, which is where we have risers and things like that. And it was motorized and the motor broke. And so we needed to repair it. And instead of repairing the motor, which was going to cost a whole bunch of money, they just unchained it from the motor. So now they can pull it together with long poles and then hook it together in the back. But that was an important piece of that too. Next slide, please. We've had multiple HVAC units replaced. That was not necessarily part of the plan, but as they failed, we needed to replace them. And for those of us who were in the building a lot during the week. We're very grateful for that. We repaved the parking lot. We repaired the sanctuary ceiling and the panels. If you remember, we had a leak in our roof, and so that was impacting the ceiling and some of the sound panels that are along the back. Split rail fence across the back so that people wouldn't drive over the grass across the bike path, because there was a new bike path that the county installed. A new dishwasher, a new stove for the kitchen. Yeah, I know, Mike's happy about that one too. And a pathway for the teams to go around the fellowship hall so that they don't have to walk in the grass. And then we had some steeple repairs. And again, I know none of this sounds like woohoo, right? But it's all stuff that's really important. And if we had not received this gift, we would be having to come up with that money. So we're very, very grateful for it. Next slide, please. On the list for 2026, there is a lot of cracking in the concrete around our building. And so we're trying to get some estimates for that concrete repair and replacement. The caulking of the joints on the sidewalls, and again, if John were here, he would be able to tell you exactly what that is. But new camera security system for inside and outside of the building. So if you all know, our camera system that we have now was original to the building in 2008. And so it hasn't really been all that effective recently, because technology, as you know, has really grown. And so this camera security system will be able to be monitored both in the sound booth, and it will maintain a record for so many days, and I think it'll be a really good, helpful thing. We have had from time to time, believe it or not, partly because of the skate park, partly because of the trail and the woods behind us, we've had the police come in and ask if they can review our video. This will be much easier to do, to pull up for them. Conversion of the choir room to a small chapel, which we've talked about. Bollards at the Oceanside door. So our team went to a security briefing with the state police, and both the camera security system and these bollards were two things that they strongly recommended. Think of, where are you, Tom? You want to say anything about it? So it's to prevent a car from being able to drive straight into the building. So right now, the way it is, we're out on the ocean side. A car could theoretically drive into the building and create some issues for us. They can't do that on the front, on the bay side. And so, Tom. Yes. Let me give you the microphone since we're live streaming. Sorry. I know everyone can hear you, but thank you. So we're using the Kids Time mic. Please. It's on? Okay. Let me see. I thought I turned it on for you, but wow. Oh, you know what? I bet our batteries are dead. Yes.
We actually talked to the folks over at the Seaside Center down there, because they have about 100 of these bollards around there. And it'll be a post about this big. They'll go outside the ocean side entrance between post standards for the portico there. And it's something that, with the two incidents that they had in Michigan where people drove up through into the church and then started, shooting people, that it would stop that. And they recommended the company, and they have about 100 of them around their facility there. You can't see them. If you look at their fence, the white fence, every post has a bollard behind it to protect them. So it's really a safety thing. We did look at some things like planters that would stand up to a 7-ton vehicle going 50 miles an hour. We didn't think that was necessary. But these are a good, cost-efficient thing to put in there, and they should be installed, before the summertime. I'm waiting to hear from that. So.
Awesome, thank you. So again, they're bollards. They're concrete, and they're meant to prevent vehicles from driving into the church. And as Tom mentioned, there were 2 experiences like that in Michigan. And so this is not something that people dreamed up. This is something that sadly people have done. And so, we're trying to balance our hospitality with our safety. And so, there's always that balance in how we do that. But we think this is a very easy thing that won't affect hospitality at all, but that will prevent someone from driving into the church. And then we are this year going to pay half of our pledge to the Legacy Fund. So, that way we'll be making steps. So the new work for this year is about $165,000, but the majority of that is the concrete work, which came in at around $100,000. So we're thinking that may actually be done in phases over time instead of doing it all in one year, and we're awaiting a second quote for that concrete work. Other items for this year, presuming that we can phase in the concrete, are new speaker systems for the sanctuary. So when our sanctuary was designed, the speakers are in the lights, and there are dead spots where you can't hear, and that makes it difficult. And refrigerators for the kitchen are only going to be replaced when the ones that we have fail. So instead of replacing them ahead of time, we're just going to wait until they fail and then replace those. And next slide, I think this is our last CapEx slide, is that that'll leave $110,000 for 2027 to figure out what we need to do. And we wanted to also let you know that the new is being, a new walk-in refrigerator is being purchased by LRAC, Lewis Rehoboth Area Congregations. So we put in for a grant. They make grants to churches and other organizations, particularly feeding organizations and organizations that deal with homelessness. So end of May. So we should have a new walk-in by the end of May, which is great because we've had a lot of troubles with this walk-in maintaining temperature. And if you go out the door, the oceanside door, and go to your left, you can see the walk-in area out there. So, are there questions about the capital expenditures? I know that's a quick yes. Did you want to?
Actually, a comment rather than a question, and just to add to everything that Vicki has explained, is that before any of these projects were done, actually the first thing we did after the $500,000 gift was received was we paid off the loan for our new roof, $130,000 that we paid off. That will save us not quite $3,000, or is saving us not quite $3,000 a month. So that's going to boom.
Yes, thank you. So there, at the first year, we paid off our roof loan, and so that saves us about $2,000 a month in payments. That money can go towards the operating budget, which is awesome. Thank you, David. We are in good shape. We really are. I mean, God has been good to us. I hate to think what would have happened if we hadn't received this gift, and we are going to start planning, and we had started planning putting aside money each budget year to create a capital reserve fund, and the plan was to get it to around $50,000, which is great, but still with all of these things, and sadly they all started coming, started needing or breaking down at the same time, but we do need to then plan on having a capital expenditure replacement fund so that when things like this happen in the future. We also are, and I know the trustees have created more of a maintenance plan so that we can make sure that we're doing the maintenance that needs to be done so that things don't break ahead of their time. And I know John's been working on that and the trustees have been working on that. Yes?
Question about our tithe. It sounds like we've done a lot of really good things with our gift that we received. My question is, the tithe is a gift.
I mean, that's something you can talk to Murray and Linda about with the capital expenditure group.
I think that's my understanding, that's the Christian approach.
That's the what? I'm sorry. Oh, okay, got ya. I mean, I think there are a lot of ways to look at that. Giving to our legacy fund, while it does seem like we're giving to ourselves, does continue our ministry, and our ministry does feed people and house the Boys and Girls Club and the preschool, and we know that giving to nonprofits in general and churches in particular is decreasing rapidly. People don't give like they used to give. And so some of this is, in my understanding, a gift to the future ministries of this church. But I'm happy to take that back to the CapEx people and see what they want to do with it. And, that's something that we can have conversation about. Alrighty. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to remind us, we live in very political times, and a lot of people don't understand what the United Methodist Church stands for. So we have a document called the Social Principles that covers things like creation care, economic care, social community care. It covers topics from human trafficking to how we're supposed to deal with our environment. And if you go to umcjustice.org, you can type in the search and find out what's the United Methodist stance on immigration, what's the United Methodist stance on the death penalty, what's the United Methodist stance on abortion. I mean, you can find all of those things at umcjustice.org. So if you're ever curious about what does our church as a whole believe, you'll find that information on umcjustice.org. They also have a lot of other wonderful things there that can help us engage in those kinds of conversations, but it's a very rich tool that helps us when we're in these conversations and struggling. So, it has scriptural references if you need to understand why we come to this, stance. There are scriptural references, there are theological reflections, but that's on umcjustice.org. And then finally, final slide is questions. Do you all have any questions overall about things we haven't talked about? Questions about things going on that you don't know the details about, that you want to know? What are some of your questions? Yes, Loretta.
Do you think that we possibly could be making more money in our tithing and collections by passing the plate rather than having the box of the bag?
Statistically, no. We've done statistical analysis of passing the plate and receiving it in the back, and it doesn't change anything. You would think it would, because you would think that having the presence of the plate would remind people, but the amount of giving does not increase at all with passing of the plate. Yeah, I know, most of us are, because we think, but a lot of us give online, and so then if a newcomer's there and you have a whole row of people who give online and they're just passing the plate down because they gave online, then it looks like nobody's giving. And so it actually ends up hurting the giving rather than just to invite people to give. So yeah, that is, and we've done a lot of study on that, trying to figure that out, and it's counterintuitive, which is why we did a lot of study on it. Yes.
What about Christmas and Easter? You have a lot of once-ers and twice-ers.
Yes. So the question is, what about Christmas and Easter when we have, our Christmas and Easter people who visit? And this is a decision that kind of Bo and I have made, because one of the largest things that people outside the church say about the church is all they want is our money. And if they come to church once a year and I start hitting them for money, then I've just reinforced their understanding of what it is. If they come to church and they get embraced by you all and loved on and cared about and they start coming back, then I think we see the return on investment. But that has also come up, so thank you for that question. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I think it was about a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that Epworth was, I believe, working with the Red Cross, designating the building as I don't know what it's called.
Yes, yes.
Could you kind of give us an update on that?
Absolutely, thank you. The governing board is going to hear the update on Tuesday night at our next meeting, and Mike Tyler's been the one who's been working on it, but we were approached and asked if we could be a temporary emergency shelter. All three of those words are critical. Temporary meaning that it only lasts during the state of emergency, and then emergency, and then shelter. And so we are working with the Red Cross, and Mike has done all the work, so thank you to Mike, and has found out that when, if we agree to do that, we would make a covenant relationship with them. And so times like the last storm where people lost power for, how many hours, 2 days, whatever, the Red Cross would come in. They have cots and blankets, and they have everything. They provide everything. We provide the space. They have worked with churches that have preschools and boys and girls clubs, so they are aware of needing to keep people out of particular parts of our building for safety of the children, just because they haven't been vetted. And then we would just need to have someone here to be the coordinator between the church and the Red Cross. So Mike would be able to answer, Mike, raise your hand again. Mike would be able to answer any of your particular questions, but we are hearing about it at the governing board on Tuesday, and we'll make a recommendation then. And if we decide to do that, you will hear more about that. So thank you for asking. Yes. Other questions? All righty. Awesome. Well, yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, Greg.
Just a question about our membership. George, you said, I guess David said that we're down to 400 or something. Are we doing anything about promoting people coming to us? I think we have a good reputation, as you said.
Right.
In town, and a lot of people that don't like churches and all that. It's like, we haven't seen our church. Things like that. Some people won't be counted at the door. It's like new experience, which they've never experienced ever.
Right. So the question is about, are we doing anything to promote Epworth, and why our membership? Now, partly our membership did not go from 10,000 to 400. That was just our membership records, and so there were a lot of duplicates in there. There were a lot of people that just came once and visited and never came back. And go ahead.
And also along those same lines, that 400 would include couples where two people would count as one unit. So I might have said 400 people before, but it might be close.
It's 700. So it's 400 households. Probably would be a better way of saying it, is 400 households. So it's probably between 600 and 700 people. But again, before, with that 10,000, we would have, Brian and Mike as individual people, and then we'd have them together as a household, so they'd be counted 3 times. Whereas now they're just counted once as a household. You guys are more than one person, but that's that's how it works. But that doesn't mean that we still can't be doing things to invite people. I think the other piece that makes it so hard is we have probably more people joining us online than we do in person, and we can't see those people. So, if you look at those online numbers at YouTube, and yes, some of them are people going back and rewatching worship, that's fine, but not most of them. So if you look at our YouTube numbers, and usually by Tuesday night, is when they start falling off. I have a friend who says she listens Monday morning when she's driving to work. She's got a long commute, and that's her worship time. So, that makes it hard to see because you look around and the sanctuary doesn't always feel very full. But if you've got people joining us online, and we've talked about different ways to highlight their presence, and we just haven't figured out what that is yet. And we can always use more members. So to your point, Greg, absolutely. I mean, I think there are always things we can be doing. And Epworth does have a great reputation in our community. And things like doing the sunrise service at the pavilion is huge for getting people here. Because we've had many people come. In fact, one of the ones, Michael Begay, he takes the photos. He came to the sunrise service just because it was in town. And then he came to church that same day at Epworth because he wanted to find out what it was all about. And now he's one of our most faithful members. So, that is one of the ways. But there certainly can be others, and I would be open, and I know Murray and the governing board would be open to hearing ways that you all have to bring people in. But you need to know, too, and again, this is just putting things in context, that after COVID, church attendance dropped dramatically. And I mean across the board, all denominations, all independent churches, people, because they stopped going for 6 months or a year or whatever. And we don't like to think of it as a habit because we feel like that makes it sound like it's less important, but it is a habit. It's like praying. Praying's a habit, right? And so, a lot of people got out of the habit and then they just never came back. So, there are a lot of things going on in our culture that contribute to that as well. And that doesn't take away from, Greg, your invitation that, we all need to be out there inviting people. And what are some things we can do to, because, and this to me is not about the numbers. It's about Epworth is a life-changing community. When you come into this place, I don't know if you all saw today a gentleman with Down syndrome who was here. We've known them for years and years. They were part of our church up in Wilmington. The one that is Skyline that I said, welcome to Skyline. Nope, it's Epworth. But they came in the first time here, and they knew us, but they couldn't get to us when they first come in the door. They had so many people greet them and welcome them and love on them. They were like, oh my gosh. And so you all make this a very special and unique place by the way you love each other and love people who walk in through that door. And so, some of it is, this is a wonderful gift. And we do want to tell people and bring people in so that they can experience what it's like to feel loved and accepted unconditionally, and to be a part of a community that's doing such amazing work in our wider community. So great point, Greg. Keep it up, and we'll keep thinking along those lines. Any other questions? All right. Let me pray us out of here, and then you all can go about your day. Thank you for staying. And please, if you have questions, don't be afraid to email. It may take a day or two to get back to you, but we will get back to you. So let's pray. Generous God, thank you so much for the gift of these people who have continued to offer their lives and their gifts and who they are to this beautiful community called Epworth. Thank you for a place where we can come and know we can be ourselves. We can make mistakes, and people will say, here, let me help you up and dust you off, and we're going to get this right. And we know that your love is in this place. So thank you for the people who have invested in it, people from long, long, long ago who had no idea what Epworth would become today. And so we pray that we would continue investing in Epworth so that people generations from now will still know that amazing love that you offer to us without charge. God, I pray that you would continue to bless all those who serve here joyfully, all those who love here boldly, and all those who lead here courageously, that we would continue to be the place where people experience the amazing grace of Jesus our Lord. Thanks for all the gifts you've given us to be able to repair this beautiful building. And thank you that this building is a gathering place and not what we worship, because we know we worship you in our lives, wherever we go. So bless us as we leave this place and remind us that the worship may have ended, but our service continues every single day. We pray trusting in the amazing love of Jesus. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.